Well, what causes diabetes isn't what you suspect. I'm not going to start with sugar. Fat is the #1 cause. And here's how it works. If you take large amounts of saturated fat, which is all the animal-based foods, but by the way, you could do a good job on coconut oil too. You actually could smother the cell so it surrounds the cell with fat. Now, all of us know that one of the most important fuels for energy in your cell is glucose, sugar, which, by the way, a 200-pound man would only have to eat 2 moderate-sized salads a day to get all the glucose or energy they need to feed the cell. You don't have to have mangoes or orange juice or honey or all the nonsense that you've heard written even by, quote, health authorities. And so now you surround the cell with animal fat, and the sugar tries to go in there, the glucose, and it can't go in. So it remains in the bloodstream. We have a name for that. It's called blood sugar disease. And at the early stage, unless you're born with diabetes, you have what we call low blood sugar, hypoglycemia. One night you go to bed, it's low, it's below 60, below 65, 50, 40, whatever it would be. You're constantly feeling you have to eat because of the low blood sugar. The next morning you wake up, it pops up to 200, 300, 400. And that's diabetes. So low and high, which is diabetes. So fat's the #1 cause, and you may note that the vast majority of people you see that have diabetic type 2 conditions are overweight. Now, are there exceptions? Sure, alcoholics quite often. They are very thin, but their body fat ratio is actually higher than a person who looks chubby. They may have twice as much body fat because they have no muscle than a person who looks like they're overweight. So there are those exceptions, but that's a minor amount compared to overweight people. Now, once you break it, once you have too much sugar inside of the bloodstream, now you start to add sugar, which is notorious. I mean, my diet when I was overweight was sugar, 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 and animal, 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 animal. I mean, if I had a recipe to kill somebody with diabetes, it would have been my former diet. That's simple, no question about it. So with that said, every form of sugar does it. In my book, Sweet Disease, I address this. And each chapter is a different disease, and I give you the latest research on how, by the way, fruit sugar causes that, and honey causes that, and agave syrup, even more than others, cause that, and obviously white sugar and brown sugar causes that. But even overeating mangoes, or as I used to do, I used to open up a 35-pound watermelon and eat the entire thing. Or when I made carrot and beet juice, I would drink a quart of it myself. So however you get your dope doesn't matter. You're still getting your dope. Heroin addicts are still heroin addicts, although they're on methadone. And so your methadone may be organic sugar, but it's going to feed diabetic conditions. And the caveat to what I'm speaking about, I've never worked with a type 2 diabetic who took their lifestyle serious, who was not able to reverse type 2 diabetes. Unlike what you hear on the street out there, that diabetic type 2 conditions are genetic and irreputable, I will tell you it's the opposite of true. I've never worked with anyone or seen anyone, our medical team, that cannot correct type 2 diabetes. And it happens so quick, your head spins most of the time. And it's one of the most dangerous things our doctors have to watch, because if you're on insulin and you start to regulate your blood sugar with lifestyle, which was what you should have been doing to begin with, you have to make sure the doctor weans the person off the insulin or they could go into shock. So you have to do this with a physician, an open-minded physician who knows what she or he is doing on this and is a believer in lifestyle. Dementia is unbelievably problematic today. My generation, the baby boom, they estimate that 25% of us, 1/4 of us, will have dementia and Alzheimer's disease. Now that's sad when you think about it. What we've learned at Hippocrates over the last 62 years is that 70% of the population lack B12. And it's not a vegan problem alone. My numbers show, after 28 years of looking at this with thousands of people, that meat, dairy, fish eaters, steak eaters, have even a higher incidence of B12 deficiency than do vegans. And proper raw food eaters who eat greens, not just lots of unripened fruit that rob B12 out, literally have the least B12. But the only supplement I'll look each and every one of you in the eye and say you should take, your loved ones, everyone you know, is B12, a good form, a bacterial form of B12. And I don't want to elaborate on it now, but I did a study, and years ago I actually found out why. That the way our large intestine was anatomically shaped at one point, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, has somehow de-evolved. I can't think of another word better than that. And it's not having a placement where food would go in and all food was organic. You didn't have to go to a whole food market and buy organic food. That was your only option at that point. Would go in there and culture itself, because B12 is a bacteria. That anatomical part's missing now. So this is a one supplement. If you take no other supplements, buy a bacterial form, the type that we utilize at Hippocrates, and take that on an ongoing basis. You and everyone that you know, love, and care for.